Hi everyone, welcome to episode number 26 of Perfect Inspiration. My name is Brian Matiash. So I thought long and hard about today's episode and what I wanted to convey, especially when I came upon this particular image. I actually shared a different colored version of this image a few months ago on my blog, and I thought that it probably would be better off serving as a black and white image, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But more importantly was the experience surrounding getting this image. And I remember I took this shot. This was at Bunsen Lake in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I've got that Google map set up right here. Here's Bunsen Lake. And actually, if we zoom in really close, you can see I was actually standing right here. And this is the dock where this man is. So let's move the browser over a bit. And you can see, right, there's the dock, there's the man sitting right there. And I had my long lens on. I think it was a 70-200. Yes, my 70-200 Canon lens. So I was zoomed in pretty tight. And here's the thing. I stood here for I don't know how long, maybe almost an hour, because just as I was getting ready to take the shot, a canoe would come by. This man had, I think it was his son or his grandson, kept kind of coming through on a kayak. Now, it's not just so much that I have to wait for the kayak to go off out of frame, but then I have to wait for the wake that the kayak creates in the water to calm down. Now, clearly I was doing a long exposure. This is a 30-second exposure at f10, almost at 200 millimeters. We're at 173 millimeters. And I was doing that to get the water to be glassed out as much as possible. So it was waiting. Here's what I knew. I knew I wanted to get a shot of this guy. I saw the guy come over here. I saw him set up his chair, and I saw him grab his newspaper and just start reading it. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a shot of just the edge of the dock with him, and I wanted motion in the newspaper. And it took a while. It took a while to get my settings to the way I want it. Secondly, remember, these are 30-second exposures. It's not like a fraction of a second. So every 30 seconds is a half a minute that I've lost if the shot didn't come out. So this took a bunch of exposures. It took a bunch of different tries between I had another version where there was a yellow streak as one of the kayaks came through the frame. And at first I was going to go with that one, but I really didn't care for it. So I had to go on. And this is the point. Is that it's not so much we become so disciplined with rifling off shots, taking a shot, walking away, not so much setting up and really thinking about a shot and spending the time, knowing full well that you can spend hours and walk away with nothing. But there's something important about that I think we should remind ourselves about as photographers. I think it's something that we should keep at the forefront. I'm not saying it has to be done every time, but the importance of knowing what you want to shoot and waiting for it to come, if you're lucky enough, that's really important. All right, so let's go ahead and let's stylize. So I mentioned that I want to turn this into a black and white image. Now there are two things I want to do here using the suite. We're going to use Perfect Black and White. That's kind of the baby of On1 software. It's part of Perfect Photo Suite 7. But I'm also going to use focal point. So if I was just using black and white, I could just right click and go to edit in and then select Perfect Black and White or any of the other modules. But because I'm going to use multiple modules, I'm going to go to the file menu, then plug in extras, and I'm going to send it to Perfect Layers, which will allow me to use multiple modules. Okay, so from Perfect Layers, I'm just going to jump right in. We have a new module selector, which has a nice pretty font, and it also has the updated product lineup. So I'm going to click on B&W for black and white to launch. All right, here we are in Perfect Black and White. Now for me, I usually start with one of the effects on the left here. It's kind of like gets me to the starting line where I want to start from. So I'm going to click on Bogart. Bogart is quickly becoming one of my favorite effects here in the product. So you can see it's giving us a good kind of general idea. I want to go for this kind of a darker, moody look. I'm going to start by bringing out the white point a bit. Also, while I'm doing that, I'm going to bring up the histogram because I like to see where the tonality is. So I'm going to bring that up a bit more just so I get a little bit of a brighter white point. Next, I'm also going to increase the contrast. Give it a nice kind of moody feel between the light and the dark. Now, I want to bring out more detail in the dock here and in the man sitting here. And I can do that using the detail brush. So by pressing here and selecting the detail brush, I'm going to be able to paint in more detail. You can see right here is more detail. I'm also going to use the new perfect brush option, which is an edge detecting brush. So it's going to detect the edges so I don't have to paint detail in the water. I'm also going to increase the amount of detail, so about 60 some odd percent, and I'm just going to start painting here. Now, I'll turn on the mask so you can see how the perfect brush works, and it basically works by sampling colors. Now you can see how despite the brush going over the edge of the dock, it's not actually painting on the water, and so that's really important for me. I'm just going to go here. Now the reason why I painted right there is because the middle of the brush, you see the water is right there in the middle, so it detected those colors. That's not a problem because all I need to do is go to less detail, and this will effectively erase, and it's going to come up in a blue, so don't worry about that. It's just showing you that it's removing that area there. All right, now what I'm going to do is just really quickly go back to more detail, and I want to add some detail on the man and on the newspaper. Just you can see how it's kind of popping out some more, which I really like. All right, so we've got that there. Now, there are a few more things that I want to do here. I'm going to increase the overall detail in the scene by using the detail slider there. And then I'm going to make a really large brush, but with the perfect brush option off, which just turns it into a basic brush. I'm going to drop the strength of detail, and I'm going to bring a little bit of detail in the trees. And so you can see here the trees come out really nicely. And again, with the perfect brush option off, we're not actually doing edge detection. All right, a few more finishing touches. First, I'm going to open up the glow pane, and I'm going to increase the amount of glow. I want it to be a little bit more rich. And next, I'm going to add a toner. So by clicking on the disclosure triangle on toner, it's going to open up, and then I'm going to turn it on. With that selected, we have a bunch of presets here for toners. I'm going to go up and I'm going to select Coffee 1 actually. So Coffee 1 gives me a little bit of a stain in the highlights and shadows. I'm going to drop that amount of highlight, and I'm going to drop the shadow just a bit. Let me see here. I'm going to bring some more of that there. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I like that kind of slightly vintage look that we're getting here. That to me is really important. So with that done, I'm going to go ahead and switch straight from perfect black and white to focal point by clicking on focus from the module selector at the top, and then we can get working there. All right, so focal point should look familiar. It didn't really change too much from Perfect Photo Suite 6. We still have our focus bug. First thing I'm going to do is change the shape of that bug from round to planar, and I'm going to make it horizontal and then put it on the lower portion of the frame. Now I'm going to take the cursor and put it in the center of the bug, and the reason why I'm doing that is with the cursor here in the center, if I press and hold on the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC while tilting forward, I can change the plane of focus to be more tilted, so you can see how that quality of blur has changed. Now I want to make sure that the man himself is in focus. So I'm going to take the the focus brush down here on the bottom. I'm going to make sure I'm set to paint focus with an opacity of 100%. I'm going to make a small brush with a small feather, and I'm going to start painting focus. And you can see how he's snapping into focus because my bug, the transition of my bug kind of renders him out of focus. But technically he's on the plane that's in focus. So that's why I want him. Obviously, I want him in focus. I'm going to show the mask for a second, just to make sure everything's good. And now I'm going to take my bug, and I'm actually going to bring it further down. Because I painted him in focus, I'm not really worried about any of him rendering out. But I'll go back and refine this just a bit, just to make sure those edges are sharp and in focus. Because what it does is it gives a really nice three-dimensional effect. It almost looks like he's standing off of or popping off of the screen, which is very cool. Next thing I'm going to do is start playing around with the highlight bloom. So I'm going to bring that highlight bloom up a bit. I'm going to drop the amount of blur down a bit because it was getting a bit too unrealistic. I'm going to drop the brightness a bit and boost the contrast so that your eyes go here really quickly. And so you can see here, let's toggle the before and the after. So that's the thing I love most about focal point is it's those subtle things. I mean, I like this shot, but it's very much flat. Everything's in focus. And by adding a little bit of focal point, you get this really nice kind of subtle bokeh pattern in the trees. So with that done, I'm going to hit apply and return back to Lightroom to finish things off. All right, so we are in Lightroom. I went straight into the develop module here, and I'm going to finish things up. First things first, I like to get my white point and my black point as well as the highlight and shadows. I like to press and hold on the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC while dragging. So with the white point, I'm going to bring this out until I start to see these dots. When I see them, I'm going to back off. Same thing with the black point. Black point, we already have some pretty lost black area here. I'm not going to try to recover that. I'm not worried about it either. Repeat the process with the highlights. Just get it to the point where we start to see those dots. And then the shadows. I'm not going to bring those. In fact, I'm going to lose some of those shadows on purpose. Now, I'm going to add a lot of contrast and a decent amount of clarity overall. So that's looking really good over here. The other thing that I want to do is it's kind of the tonality is kind of even, meaning it's kind of bright throughout the entire stretch of the image. And I really want it to be brighter over here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my graduated filter and select exposure. Then I'm going to take that down. I'm going to bring it to about -30, and I'm going to drag in. And so it kind of darkens that area just a bit. I'm going to hit new, and I'm going to create one more from the top. And so that's looking really good. I might actually go ahead to the adjustment brush at this point and make it a bit brighter with some contrast and a lot of clarity, and then bring out some detail in the chair and on the man. Also on the dock while we're at it. I like the dock to be really sharp. I'm also going to bring out some detail here, actually, now that I think about it, in the shadow, or rather in the reflection of the dock. That adds a nice touch to it too. All right, so there we go. I think I'd call this done. I really like the way it looks. Let's just go ahead here to the grid view and compare the two. So we've got this shot here. Again, it took time. It took time, you know, and I was fully prepared to walk away. I was fully prepared for this guy to just get up and leave. Maybe his son or grandson, whoever it was that was with him, was done. But until that point, I kept trying, and it was patience. It was really patience, but not just patience. It was also having that idea in my head of what I wanted to shoot. It wasn't just blind. Oh, I'm gonna. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted the motion in the newspaper and everything like that. So it was methodology as well as patience, and I think that's something that we should all practice on. And by getting this shot, I was able to kind of come home, use the tools I had at my disposal, and get this one. That is, to me, really conveys the mood of the scene. So with that, I want to thank you again for making it out for episode 26, and I look forward to seeing you again next Friday for episode 27. Thank you very much.